Hello, everyone, and welcome to RBCM at Home. My name is Kim Goff, and I'm a learning program developer at the Royal BC Museum. I'm coming to you today from my home, which is located on the territories of the Lekwungen, also known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations in Victoria, British Columbia. I'd like to extend my appreciation for the opportunity to live and learn on this territory. And I encourage all of you to consider the traditional territory on whose land you are on today, wherever you are. RBCM at Home began 1 year ago when our museum and archive was closed due to the pandemic. It was an opportunity to talk to staff about what they were working on from home. Now, even though the museum has reopened, we've continued this program as a way of staying connected with people at home or at school around the province. This program and previous ones have been recorded, and you can find them on the Royal BC Museum's YouTube channel. So on the main floor of the Royal BC Museum is the Pocket Gallery, a home for small rotating exhibits from museum staff, partners, and community. On right now is Collaborating for Conservation. In order to conserve areas of natural significance, we need to know what is there, sort of like taking an inventory. A partnership between the Royal BC Museum and BC Parks Foundations and universities is helping to document life in BC parks. And to tell us more about the role of citizen science is John Reynolds. John is professor and holds the Tom Buell BC Leadership Chair in Salmon Conservation and Management in the Department of Biological Sciences at Simon Fraser University. He is also the chair of the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada, which you may hear us referred to as COSEWIC during today's conversation. In 2020, he was honored to become a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. Welcome, John, and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you very much, Kim, and yes, I really appreciate the invitation to speak to everybody about a couple of my favorite topics. And so I'm going to be talking for maybe 20 minutes about generally about citizen science projects, but also blending it with the uses that we can make of citizen science for various conservation purposes. So you mentioned the BC Parks program, which is using iNaturalist. I'm the co-organizer of that with Brian Starzomski from the University of Victoria. I'll mention that briefly at the end. And again, I appreciate we very much appreciate the working with the museum in a variety of ways, including not just the Pocket Gallery, but we're also doing surveys this summer with citizen science with some of the people from the RBC Museum. So we appreciate the connection here, and it's going to be a fun summer, I think, COVID permitting.
Yes,
absolutely. So what I'll do is well, thanks. And I'll take the screen here and I'll start with some PowerPoint. How's that? And the chat that I'm seeing, are you seeing a chat in the way of the screen, or is it okay?
No, okay. It looks fine. Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, I can see it brief, but I probably won't, as I mentioned, I'll have trouble following it. So yes, I'm going to talk about citizen science and conservation. And just to sort of remind people of what we mean by citizen science, if I can advance my screen.
And I'll just also let you know, it's not on slideshow view. So if you can make slideshow view, we'll get a more full screen of your images there.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Great. All right, thank you. So citizen science is a fancy way of saying that it's basically people getting out in the outdoors and having fun and finding things and uploading them to one or more of their favorite platforms that can gather observations together. And so basically it's a way for volunteers to collect their observations and then put them in a format that other people can download, can see, and use for various purposes. And I'm going to be talking about the conservation one in particular today. And the conservation angle I will be using is, as Kim suggested, it's going to be from a COSEWIC perspective. And so as the chair of this organization, I'll just tell you a little bit about how it works, and then we'll give you examples of how COSEWIC can use this kind of information. So COSEWIC consists of volunteer experts who assess the status of Canadian plants and animals to figure out which ones are threatened. And we are appointed by the Federal Minister of the Environment to this task, and there are about 40 of us. And we inform the minister which ones are threatened based on our discussions and status reports that we put together. And we use a variety of information sources, including citizen science, other types of science, and Aboriginal traditional knowledge also can play a very large role in our assessments. So for example, with polar bear, which we assessed a few years ago, Aboriginal traditional knowledge of Inuit and other northern people was essential in trying to figure out what the status is. But I'm, for the purposes of this talk, going to talk a little bit about some of the citizen science examples that have been feeding into this process of assessing the status of Canadian flora and fauna. And so just to give you a flavor of what it looks like, this is a meeting of COSEWIC. We meet twice a year. This is in Ottawa. And here everybody's sitting around the table and listening to a presentation by one of the members for one of the species. And there'll be a vigorous discussion, a bit like a thesis defense for the person who's presenting the species. And then we will vote on the status. And we follow very clear international criteria for determining what makes, how we decide if something is actually threatened with extinction. And then that is the information that the Minister of the Environment can use, and if they can then protect them under the Federal Species at Risk Act if they choose. So just to show you how much, how interesting it can be, we've got a wide range of species that we can look at, from marine mammals to mosses and lichens, a snail here, there's a plains hognose snake, and so on. So let's talk a bit more about the citizen science platforms that are available for conservation. Bird people have got the lead on the number of available options. Lots of people are very keen on birds, of course, and there have been Christmas bird counts have been happening for over 100 years. So long before we ever use the term citizen science. There's breeding bird surveys and breeding bird atlases I'll talk about. And I want to just begin with a little discussion about Ebird. And if anybody who's watching right now is a birder, you definitely know about Ebird, and probably 4 to 5 birders are using Ebird to keep track of their sightings. Let me show you, here's a checklist for Ebird. It's a very good site. You can input your species you've seen. Here's one I did yesterday. And you can see I threw in a photograph here of a Canada goose and other ones. And my mouse is looking a little, it's got a weird delay in it, but you can see it says how many species I saw. I saw 28 species that day, and it maps it and so on. And that information is all gathered together, and it's available then to anybody who wants to use the information in aggregate. And when I say in aggregate, you have no idea. Let me show you a video I took. This is in February, 4th of February, 2021. As I said, my cursor isn't being very helpful, and you can see, I hope you can see, I did it at 10:51 in the morning, okay? And so I took a video, this is of real-time observations being submitted to Ebird. Every white dot you see there is a checklist that was submitted that day. Okay, remember, at least in our time zone, it's only 10:51 in the morning, and there were 17,000 checklists submitted that morning, that day. And let's see if I can get the animation to work. There they go. The yellow explosions are checklists getting submitted. So all around the world, people are hitting submit. So you can see there's one going off in Brazil, and we had a couple on the Eastern Seaboard. What else we got? There's one in California, right? This was in real time as I was videoing the screen as they're being submitted, okay? And at this hour, this is Pacific time, so people have barely gotten going in the Eastern Seaboard. So over that 20 seconds, 20 checklists were submitted, 20 checklists, 17,000, and it's not even lunchtime yet, at least in our time zone on the Pacific coast. So you have that much information coming in, you can imagine the power that you have to analyze the statistics of where species are, and also to look for changes over time, migration routes, and so on. So to me, this is it's just a lot of fun. As a keen birder, I use it all the time, and it keeps track of my lists for me and what I've seen, and it also contributes to the wider good. So that's one example. Breeding bird surveys, breeding bird atlases. I do practice what I preach. Here I am with my wife, Isabelle Cote. We're doing, this is BC's Breeding Bird Atlas number of years ago. And here we, as with probably thousands of people across the province, were going out to areas to see what birds there were for the atlas, and all this information then gave us a snapshot in time of what the status and distributions of birds were. So then you can see how they change later on. So how could we use this? Well, here's a COSEWIC status report on barn swallow. You may be surprised to hear that barn swallow is considered to be threatened. COSEWIC decided it was in 2011. There are still lots of barn swallows around, thank goodness, but their numbers have been declining. How do we know that? Well, we use citizen science. Here is citizen science generated data from breeding bird surveys, where people go out and they do the same route, set routes year after year, both here and in the States. And there's an abundance index. You can see that down is bad. They really came down fast after about 1985. And then it looks like since 2000, things are not as steep a decline, thank goodness. But the decline since 2000 was enough to trigger the criterion that tells us that this is a bird that is threatened, not endangered yet, and definitely one that we would want to keep an eye on. And then that information from COSEWIC goes to the federal Minister of the Environment for potential protection under SARA, the Species at Risk Act. So that's citizen science data. We couldn't have done it basically very well at all without that information. And here's a breeding bird atlas. This is from the Maritimes. Again, we're still on the barn swallow. The thing you need to see, if it's orange, that's good. That means they found it. Okay, so they seem to be doing pretty well in central Nova Scotia. But look at New Brunswick. The white areas means they didn't find it at all in the 5 years or so that the project ran in each of these squares. And if it has a black dot in the middle, that means it was found the first time they did the atlas a number of years earlier, but not on the repeat survey. So they truly are disappearing from large parts of the Maritimes. And remember that there's been a lot more effort looking for them in the second atlas than the first. So again, this information went straight into the COSEWIC status report to figure out what the status was of barn swallow. And it's thanks to volunteers. This is volunteer driven. And then we should talk about iNaturalist. This is the number of observations submitted to iNaturalist since just in the last 5 years. And these are millions of observations. You can see that the use of this platform has been going up exponentially. iNaturalist is run by the California Academy of Science in collaboration with National Geographic. It's been around for about 10 years, but you can see it's really only just taken off in the last 2 or 3. Last year, the number of observations nearly doubled from what they'd had all time. And so it's become extremely popular. And so I'm going to take you to the site, if I'm brave enough to end my show. And we will jump. I will do a different screen share here.
There, yes, I'm seeing the.
You've got it now? Oh,
yeah.
Great. Okay. And so I think it didn't like it entirely because it's taking a while to upload the observations, but you get the idea. The red dots are where observations have been made. They've actually got more than 60 million observations by 1.5 million people in iNaturalist. So, and the thing about this is that it's not just for birds like Ebird, it's for all species of plants, animals, fungi, and so on. And so, for example, actually, Kim, I'm going to surprise you and put you on the spot. Can you name a species of plant or animal?
Oh, well, I should be able to. Douglas fir.
Okay. Okay, so common, see it auto-filled it. I didn't even get a chance to fully write it. So here's the distribution of Douglas fir. You can see it's obviously been introduced a lot in Europe. There's a map.
Yeah.
16,000 photographs have been uploaded by over 6,000 people of Douglas fir. I'm still getting this funny delay for some reason in my screen, so I'll try not to mess with it too much. But one of the things you could do is, well, we could just look at the ones in, yeah, it's taking a while to respond here. This is due to this is, I think, partly a Zoom thing. But we could go to Greater Vancouver, and we could zoom in there. So there they are in Vancouver. Those are the observations that have been made. And I can click on any one of these random points, take that one, and there it is. So this, and I click again on it, and I can see the observation somebody's put in. So this is by this person who drees trees. It sounds like they like trees. And there it is. There's the photo. There it's from Golden Ears, it looks like. And so that's what they called it. And someone else agreed, right? Someone else saw the photo and agreed. And that means that the photo is called so-called research grade, meaning it's verified. And you can look at all of your own photos this way if you want to. So if you can't remember, how to tell a Doug fir from a grand fir, for example, you could go to your own observations. I could go to my observations here. I won't spend too long on this. Let's just see. Oh, those are my observations around the world. I can go to grand fir. And so I could do a side-by-side comparison. There's where I've seen them. I've seen 57 of them, or at least I've uploaded 57 of them from different places. And I can see them all. There they are. You can see they're all research grade and so on. And these are all easy to do. The way you do it is you can take a photo with your phone through the app and hit upload. And if you don't know what it is, you can ask for suggestions, and it has an artificial intelligence that will suggest what it might be based on where you are and on what it looks like. And if you use a normal camera, you can just download them all to your laptop and then drag and drop onto the platform. The mapping happens automatically if you use your phone with the notification services turned on, because it actually takes the Latin long and maps it automatically, and it knows the time, date. You don't have to type all that stuff. So it's very easy to use, and you can do a large number at once if you're into it. So I won't spend more time on that. I could go on for but you can explore that site yourself. Go look up INAT. And are we back to
We are. We're back to PowerPoint.
Hopefully going full screen. There's a delay here. It's thinking about it.
Yeah, while we're waiting for the full screen, sure. If people want to hear more about iNaturalist, last month we talked with Brian Starsmonski, and he gave us a very good demonstration of that. So you can watch that talk if you haven't seen it yet. We're now full screen, John.
Great, thank you. Yes, and Brian and I are, the co-organizers of a very big iNaturalist project with BC Parks, which was the subject of his talk. And so, yes, I think I would certainly recommend that you do have a look at his presentation. So that's how iNaturalist works. Let's get back to the conservation. This is the American bumblebee, and it's considered special concern by COSEWIC in 2018. How did we know? Well, partly from museum specimens and looking at how often it was collected over time, but we also have information available from our friend iNaturalist. Now this is up to date, so we didn't have all this information at the time we did it 3 years ago, but here you can see these are all dots that are where it's been seen. You can see it's in Southern Ontario. It's mostly found just south of the Canadian Shield. It's kind of surprising. There's one up in Huntsville and in Ottawa. And these have been uploaded, and there's some examples, and people have been pitching in and verifying them. So there are 125 observations in iNaturalist. Now, when we did the assessment, there were far, far fewer in iNaturalist. There's more interest in bumblebees generally in their conservation, And so now people are really paying attention. So when we reassess the status of bumblebee, the American bumblebee, that one species, in 10 years, we're going to have all the information we need to understand how their numbers have changed and their distribution have changed over that time period. Because there's some question about whether it really is special concern or maybe it's threatened with extinction. We'll know, thanks to iNaturalist and other citizen science platforms like Bumblebee Watch, we're soon going to have a much better idea of that. Here's another one. This is one of my favorites. I've never seen one of these. And it's the painted hand mudbug. Is that a great name for a crayfish or what?
Awesome.
This beautiful creature was found by a friend of mine, Colin Jones. He's a biologist, works in Ontario. He found it by accident in Windsor, in a park, Ojibwe Prairie. He thought it was something else. He assumed it was the common crayfish, but I guess Mr. Crayfish and iNaturalist looked at it and said, nope, it looks like you've got a new species for Canada, never before seen in Canada. And they went back, they put out the word, other observations came in on iNaturalist, and they even wrote a paper, a scientific paper. And I think the title says it all, the first record of painted hand mudbug in Canada and the significance of iNaturalist in making new discoveries. So, he's a biologist, but that's not how that got identified. It got identified by somebody else. He thought it was something else, and it got figured out. So I suspect this species will be coming across our desk in COSEWIC for status assessment at some time, probably in the future. And then one other one I want to tell you about, because I had a small role in this. This is a grapple-tail dragonfly. This is a draft status report that COSEWIC is working on right now. Look at the date there. It says return recommendations on status by the 19th of April. That's like 19th of April as in 10 days from now, because COSEWIC is about to have an assessment meeting at the end of April, and we're about to assess the status of grapple-tail butterfly. Now, I knew that, and I also knew, thanks to iNaturalist and other information, that it was found not too far from where I live in the Lower Mainland. So I organized a little expedition, and I was inspired by an iNaturalist observation here to invite Jeremy Gatton, who is a superb naturalist from Vancouver Island. And here he had seen it. This is on iNaturalist. That's the page. He had taken this photograph of it in a provincial park north of Mission. And so that's what he submitted. He saw it, and you can see in July of 2020. So we got together, and he and I and Brian Starzomsky and Jenny Herron, Jennifer Herron, a provincial endangered species biologist, we all got together. I put together an expedition to go look for this thing, and we wanted to look in a park where it was reported 40 years ago and had never been seen again. And so here's the park. This is Davis Lake Provincial Park. This is Davis Creek. It likes creeks that come out of warm lakes. There's Jennifer Herron. We walked up to the thing. As soon as I walked up to the creek, there it was. We found one. And we found 16 altogether. First time it had been seen there in 40 years. And that information was obviously pretty helpful. We also found it in a brand new location. I think this was the fifth location known for the entire country. So here I am. You can see there's Jeremy Gatton. We're aiming at the same place. We're looking at one. We're photographing one up in the trees here in this new river where they had never been seen before. All that information is in our status report, and it's contributing to the decision about what the status is of this very rare insect that's found in southern Canada. And good old iNaturalist, we put them all into iNaturalist, so now all of those records are there for anybody to see and download and use in any way that they want to. So those are just some snapshots of examples. And Kim mentioned that our BC Park Citizen Science program is featured in the Pocket Gallery at the museum. And I do hope people can go and see that. And this shows how we have mobilized a team of people to take photographs of as many species as possible in all of our provincial parks. We have a big summer planned. We've got 6 people who we're sending out as dedicated teams, but everybody can contribute. If you see something in a provincial park, please do use iNaturalist if you enjoy using it, and we'll get it. The records will come to us for this project automatically. So basically your homework would be for this summer, have fun with this app, with iNaturalist and any other apps that are involved in citizen science. For me, it's as much a hobby, more of a hobby even probably than a profession. It is fun, and if your idea of fun is taking photographs of things, finding things, and being in the outdoors, then certainly hope that you will also be inspired to use citizen science to help understand the status of species and also to just keep track of what you've seen. So I'll leave it there, Kim, and I'll stop the share. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and inviting folks again to use either chat or the Q&A if you have any questions for John. John, have you had sort of, I guess, assignments for iNaturalist before, or for that type of citizen science? So I imagine, for example, let's say you notice, you gave the example of the barn swallow and the big drop. Can you then issue a kind of challenge that's specific to trying to look for more information, or to get more people in a certain area to look for a species?
Yes, and we have done that occasionally, especially for obscure species. So there's certain insects, for example, which could be quite big, but people don't necessarily look at them or pay attention to them. So we have sort of put out a wanted posters occasionally for certain species. Yes.
Yeah, great. And I was also wondering a little bit about COSEWIC and sort of the formation. That was a big room of folks you showed us. Are they all professionals? Are there amateurs, students? Like what is the makeup of COSEWIC?
They are professionals, and they are independent scientists. So we don't work for the government. They pay the expenses and they provide a professional secretariat in Ottawa, but we're volunteers. And so they are academics. Some of them work for NGOs, some of them work for government agencies, and each province and territory also has 2 representatives on COSEWIC, but they're there because they're experts about endangered species, not because they're trying to represent, an official view of the province. They're there to advise on what the status is, and that's it. We don't think about consequences of the decisions or anything like that. But there's a place where we do have a number of students, is that in addition to the people you saw at the table, we are supported by subcommittees of experts on different species groups. So we have a vascular plants subcommittee, we have a marine mammal subcommittee, and we do have students on those subcommittees. And in fact, we are encouraging we have dedicated early career positions now on those subcommittees. So there's no reason a student can't be at the big table, can't be on a subcommittee, and we are very keen on that kind of participation.
Excellent. And I love how you've demonstrated that citizen science lets us all sort of be at that table by sharing observations and information. We can kind of have a voice in at least letting you know what that sort of inventory is of the province. When you gave us an example, okay, I have a couple questions. I'll try to word it well. Oh, but before I do, there's a question here online. Delane is wondering if they find interesting species on non-park land, is that also welcome? I guess essentially, can you submit photos from anywhere in?
You bet. Absolutely. So you submit from anywhere. The park species are important for that one platform, that one program that we're running, but they don't have to be in a park. And one other thing I should add, which I forgot to mention, so appreciate the chance, Delane, just throw this in. If it's a species that could potentially be harmed or persecuted or poached because it's super rare and people might want to go and collect it or take it home or whatever, iNaturalist for most of those automatically obscures the locations so So the butterfly collectors can't go and find some super rare butterfly very easily. They actually obscure the location. And if you're not sure, you can sort of obscure the location as well, just by making the bubble around the point on the map really large, so people won't know exactly where it was. So they do a pretty good job of protecting vulnerable species.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great use of the technology. So for the project that you have, which is based on BC Parks, as long as people use the automatic location finder, or they can add the location themselves, you will automatically get that data. They don't have to use a special hashtag or any other information.
That's right. It automatically will appear. We've got tens and tens of thousands of observations appeared in our project as soon as we made the project up, as soon as we set it up, that had been there before, where people had already uploaded from the park, so that our program didn't even exist yet, and our program automatically got them all. So you don't have to join anything. You just use iNaturalist and put the location in, and then the platform we've set up will find those observations automatically based on location.
That's excellent.
So we're over 200 and I haven't looked in the last week or two, but we're over 270,000 observations, and we're really quite keen to get to 500,000 by the end of this summer, and I think we're going to do it.
That's awesome. Yes, I hope so. I hope you do, and I hope folks will try contributing. It's fun and it's easy to use iNaturalist. Val is wondering, how does Seek work with iNaturalist? I'm not aware of Seek. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is as well?
Sure. Seek was created by the same people who are behind iNaturalist, and Seek is amazing bit of technology. It's a bit like using, scanning a QR code. You don't actually have to even press any buttons. You can just hold up your phone and point at something, and it'll suggest what it is. So literally, I could scan across like this, and it would say, salal, western sword fern, right? Common daisy, as suggestions. And so you can then, agree with those suggestions or not. It's very good with school groups. It was intended a lot for younger people. It has better for privacy reasons and so on. And essentially, I think it's meant as a gateway drug to iNaturalist.
Okay, excellent. And Jenny has posted a link for that if people want to check that out. It's in the chat. Mm-hmm. Jean is wondering, Jean said, I sent a leg band sighting of a downtown Cooper hawk to Andy Stewart. Should I also register it with iNaturalist, or does he pass that kind of thing along?
Let me just check the chat. I didn't quite get that. How does Seek, what's the question again? Sorry, who are we doing? Oh, Jean Oliver?
Yes.
Oh, it wouldn't get, okay, so the Cooper's hawk would not be sent to iNaturalist that you saw, and it's great you got a leg band on it. No, you'd have to do that yourself. So because it goes into your own account. So sort of like, here's what I've seen. This is my set of observations. So if you want the Cooper's hawk to go into iNaturalist, you would need to upload that yourself.
Great. Well, I do hope people try it out, and I hope you get lots of great sightings this year. Thank you so much, John, for joining us, and thank you everyone who joined in. If you joined us late or you missed something and want to go back, this has been recorded and you will find it on the Royal BC Museum's YouTube channel, so please have a look there. Our museum has reopened and we are ready to welcome you back. And you can find out more on our website about at-home kids, and outside for the foreseeable future. And links for all of those programs are posted on the Royal BC Museum's website. I hope you'll join us at one of those programs, or perhaps have a chance to visit us in person. But until then, take care of yourselves and one another. Thank you. Bye-bye.